Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia just unleashed fire and fury on Spectrum Nazi Stephen Miller, and Democrats have reason to cheer. Not to mention, reasons for hope. Welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. Stephen Miller. If you're not familiar, he's the presidential advisor who resembles a bowling pin, known for his white supremacist beliefs, obsessiveness, and generally weird communication habits, and he's become one of the icons of the second Trump term. He is the architect of Trump's mass deportation policy and encourages the cruel methods we have witnessed over the past 6 months. He's also the man responsible for bankrupting ICE. While the administration claims to target criminal immigrants, Miller's edicts encourage them to detain immigrants in schools, hospitals, courtrooms, churches, construction sites, and so on. In other words, he's a weird guy, and believe it or not, Trump agrees. Check out what journalist Michael Wolff has to say.
You know, remember in the early days of Trump 1, there were, the Muslim bans and, and there were pandemonium at the airport. That was Stephen Miller. And that had to be reversed. That was Bannon, too, Bannon and Miller. And that was immediately, shortly thereafter, reversed. You remember that the instance of babies being snatched from their mother's arms. Again, Stephen Miller. And that caused, one person in the inner circle who I know to describe this as Stephen's masturbatory fantasies of immigration and deportation. So there is an awareness that Stephen Miller is a problem. And even Trump calls him Weird Stephen.
Weird Stephen.
Because he is weird, by the way. I mean, right. You can't spend a moment with him and not saying, oh, something off here. He doesn't make eye contact, and then he talks to you in this monotone voice, and it feels very revvy. You know, the engine keeps the engine of his voice keeps going, and you kind of step back.
Okay, well, that's definitely not a sell for Stephen Miller. But so watch this space on Stephen Miller as ICE all starts as everything about ICE and the raids now annoys a lot of Republicans who have supported Trump up until now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he has to, and even when the administration began, and another person close to Trump who I said, okay, what's going to happen here with this? And this person was very straightforward. Well, they'll try to deport everybody until the headlines get too bad, and then we'll move on to something else.
Miller's actions have made him one of the most despicable people in America, and you'll be happy to know Congress has taken note. Congressman Robert Garcia of the great state of California unloaded on Miller yesterday while visiting the Pod Save America podcast. During his interview with the handsome host Jon Favreau, Garcia opened up about his true feelings about Miller and made a shocking promise. Now, this is a longer clip, but there's a lot here, so make sure to watch it all.
I have run out of ways to express how outraged and disgusted I am by Stephen Miller terrorizing communities. And the question I get asked all the time from people is, what more can we be doing about this? It feels like we hear these horrible stories and everyone speaks about them, but what more can we be doing? What do you think?
First, what's happening right now is just, it is so inhumane and gross. And as an immigrant myself who came here as a young kid, it's not the America that so many immigrants come to actually be a part of, to fight for citizenship. The American dream that immigrants are actually drawn to is being ripped away from people. And the inhumanity, essentially dehumanizing immigrants so that they're less than human, is Stephen Miller doing what he loves to do, which is be essentially the biggest piece of shit in this country. Stephen Miller should be ashamed for the way he is acting. I can't even believe he's from our state, which actually makes me more sick.
Me too.
And I'll say that like what's happening right now is it's not just that story, which is horrific. I mean, it's the dad of those Marines that got essentially beat on a street. It's children that are U.S. citizens being deported, as we know, to other countries without consent. Due process in our Constitution is given to citizens and non-citizens. It's all persons. And I don't know what part of all persons that Kristi Noem, Donald Trump, and Stephen Miller don't understand. And so what has to happen now, I think you're seeing some of that. One is we are winning some of these cases in the courts. And I think that's been a really important vehicle for Democrats. We've got to continue winning in the courts, and that's going to continue. And the other piece of it, people's reaction, the protesting, the anger, the rising up against these actions also is having an effect. And you're seeing that. I mean, what's happening in LA, which was widely, as you know, mostly peaceful. Mm-hmm. And yes, there were some incidents of violence. We denounce those. We get that. But widely peaceful, the protests are energizing the population and the public to stand up against this. And we are seeing the impact it's having on the Republicans electorally. I mean, Trump's immigration numbers have never been as low as they are right now because they're seeing what he wants to do implemented across the country. And so that's going to be really important. And then finally, Democrats in Congress and across the country, we got to fight. We got to continue to fight really hard. It does feel in these last few weeks, last month or so, that there is a shift happening. I really do sense that Democrats people have found their footing. They're being more aggressive. They're getting out in the street more. And so I hope that wave kind of continues. And hopefully we can stop the worst from happening and encourage some actually good legislation moving forward.
Do you plan to conduct investigations from your perch on the Oversight Committee of ICE and DHS? And do you think that any of these officials would actually show up at the hearings?
One is absolutely, you can take it to the bank. I mean, going after the corruption of what's happening right now at ICE and Homeland Security is going to be a critical piece of our oversight agenda. And even in the minority, we actually have some oversight investigative work coming up here in the next few weeks specific to ICE.
Great.
But certainly that is going to be a big focus of what we do. Broadly speaking, of course, when we're able to have subpoena power and actually take over the investigations, one thing I've told people is you can rest assured that if you are right now causing the level of harm that the Stephen Millers of the world are, that these ICE agents are, that the corruption that's happening to destroy our institutions, you are going to be held accountable. We're not going to forget the harm that you're causing to people and our government. We're going to use the power of subpoena investigations. We're going to ensure transparency, and these folks are going to be held accountable.
That's just satisfying to hear, isn't it? I'm sure it will feel even better when the House actually starts investigating Miller and his role in ICE detentions, and the denial of due process to legal residents of the United States. It should also throw some cold water on his neo-Nazi agenda. And no, that's not an exaggeration. In 2019, hundreds of emails between Miller and right-wing site Breitbart leaked, exposing his connections to various white supremacist outlets. That's especially ironic considering that he's of Jewish heritage. You will also be happy to know that he's been disowned by his extended family over his creepy beliefs. So, don't think that the excitement of American politics is going away anytime soon. I, for one, look forward to seeing Miller called before Congress and exposing his anti-American agenda. And to ensure that happens, as Representative Garcia says, keep up the protesting, keep up the conversation, support Democrats everywhere, and above all, vote. I'm David Reddish.